Welcome to the Inner Flame podcast where stardust meets the body. I've got to check the date here. We're looking at the week of the 1st through the 7th of June. We're in June. We are in June. And what's really interesting is last week I've really got, the messages of like physical, emotional healing, but also like really disconnecting from like all the noise. And this felt like a lot of social media, maybe even what's happening like in the macro reality. And I had the intention of like, I'm gonna do this breathing exercise and I'm gonna write an article about this. And I did not. I did none of it. And it was really interesting because I was really listening to the energy and also listening to my soul. I spent a lot of time outside in my garden. I needed to disconnect. And that was what the energy was calling us to do, was like totally disconnect, not be totally inundated with information where it's like, oh my God, I had no idea this was a problem, like, oh my God, what do I do now? But there was like this little bit of me that was like, I'm doing something wrong by not, doing the things that I think I should be doing. And I really think that, there's something to be said about that. And I did talk about how we might have this like nervous system thing come up where it's like, ooh, that doesn't like, I'm kind of freaking out, right? Because we are so conditioned to be like, scroll on our phones all the time. And there's no need for it. It's just out of like this habit, this dopamine that we're looking to, the dopamine hit. So anyway, it was a really interesting week for me personally. I have my friend back here again. She was whining at the door to come in. So my friend is back here. And I want to talk about this week. Okay. So we're in June. If you are subscribed to my newsletter, this is not through Substack. This is actually through my website. And I just keep them separate because my website came first and it just feels special. Not that Substack isn't special, but it's the one thing that I can offer that community. And it's a monthly newsletter. And it's really interesting because the word or phrase that I got for the month of June was strap in. And if you're interested in a monthly newsletter where it's just like, I look at the whole energies of the month, and there's also flower magic in there. You can go to my website and subscribe to the Inner Flame. You can also do it from my Instagram. But it's, I think, going to be really interesting as we move into June because of the energies that I'm seeing and what I was picking up for, the month of June. And I do have another podcast that I'm going to be working on with the energies of what is coming in, like what Celeste has kind of shown me and how long that might last. But I digress. That is not this video. So as we move into the 1st of June, right? I'd say June 1st, 2nd, 3rd, right? We're looking at loosening our grip. There is an energy here right now that's basically saying there's going to be coping mechanisms that is coming up, density, things kind of feeling really thick, almost like the energy is like, I feel like I'm walking through mud or sludge. And what's really interesting is like last week was a bit of a doozy. Like I was talking to a couple of my friends. Everyone was super tired, lots of headaches, lots of things coming up in the body, and really needing some extra TLC. And, as we move into this week, it does feel like maybe we won't feel it so physically, but definitely energetically and our experiences. So There's also a highlight around addiction and letting God in, letting the universe in, letting source in. And it feels like it's really wild, because for strap in, you know, for the phrase that I got for June, it's like strap in, you know, like let's go. But I also feel like there's a part of us that needs to also let go. You know what I mean? So we're strapping in, but we also got to be able to go with the flow. And I think that's going to be interesting for the first of the week, where we're going to really start seeing these coping mechanisms. Overall, it feels like this week particularly is going to be around patterns, and where like lots of clarity in a way if we allow it. And we have the lens of Mother Mary, and I don't think that, like, what I'm getting is like the way Mother Mary, Magdalene even, has talked to me about the blueprint of existence is expansion, contraction, and rest. And I feel like they're reminding us about this blueprint, the expansion, the contraction, the rest, the expansion, contraction, rest, right? Expansion, contraction, rest, repeat. And it's just over and over, right? It's another pattern. And so I think what they are reminding us to do is, like, these things are going to come up. We're going to start noticing them in our finances. We're going to start noticing them in our relationships, addiction patterns, right? Like, where are we choosing to soothe in a way that might not be actually for our benefit, right? And that's even like, even if you're doing something good for your body, right? Like an addiction for working out, is that really benefiting the body, right? Or is there an addiction pattern there? Is there something that you're running from rather than sitting with? So I think this is going to be a big week for us to be able to look at these aspects. And so we're looking through the lens of compassion and love and nurturing, right? Like the mother energy, okay, of being able to see these things, pick up on these things. This might be in our own little reality. This could be in the macro reality. And I think, like, again, June is really going to feel like the last push. So we're already starting out with this type of energy where it's like, wow, okay, I don't give up, right? And then it's like, we want to do this. We want to be able to support ourselves through dance, through movement. And so this is like, again, where are we holding the tension in our bodies? When that coping mechanism kicks in, or that addiction kicks in, where can we feel that in the body? Is it in the head? Is it in the heart? Is it in the chest? Is it in the shoulders? Is it in the belly? Like, where is that tension living? And I think this is also reminding us to move. We need to move the body. We need to move energetically, but also physically, to sometimes break the pattern. And again, like, we talk about this with a lot of nervous system care. This is not just something that you can be like, oh yeah, I got it. Like, logically that makes sense. It has to be felt in the body. It needs to be moved through the body. So I think this is just, again, reminding us, become aware of what patterns are coming up, what coping mechanisms, things might feel really, and where does it feel dense? Like, where does it feel like you're moving through sludge? And maybe don't try to figure it out logically. Maybe take witness to it, offer yourself love and compassion, and move through it. What do I need to do? How can I support my body right now in moving my body? Okay, by the middle of the week, we then have Birthing Creations, Tapestry of Life Expression. So even I'm getting this for like the world stage. Like, there are big things that might be starting to come out this week. And this might also be in your own life, like you birthing something, right? A creation that might start actually taking formation, right? Manifestation, expression. But there's also like this tension around timing. And again, it's like, where are we? I almost want to say, again, and this feels like so cliche, right? It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But it is it is about that, right? Because where are we kind of pushing the journey aside and kind of forcing the outcome that we want rather than really allowing and understanding life to unfold while we manifest and allow the divine timing to unfold. And then we do have, the clarity card is, or through the lens of stepping back. It's almost like we need to kind of maybe put down what we're trying to force or put down what we're trying to birth, like the tension around like, this isn't happening fast enough, this isn't how I want it to go. And I do feel like this week we might see that in different ways in our lives. Like, it could come down to like, oh my God, like dinner isn't going the way I want it to, and I just want it to be XYZ, right? Like, again, it's kind of telling us to step back, put it down, walk away, come back to it an hour later, right? And that might be hard with dinner, but that might be where you're like, okay, maybe it's just a pizza night, or something easy. I'm going to pull something out of the freezer and boom, that's what it is. So it's really, again, like reminding us where we can loosen our grip. Where are we gripping on what we are trying to birth? And I even see this in the bigger aspect of like the new paradigm. My friend and I talk so much about like really birthing this, and we both get tripped up on time sometimes. And it's like really taking that step back and like, I just can feel it in my body because like I do feel the expansiveness, but I also feel like, but how much longer? Like, what do you mean we have to wait a little bit more? So this is, again, like seeing and what trips us up when we do take that step back. What pattern wants to come to the surface when we do say, okay, I'm going to like let go. And it might not happen right away, but you might start noticing like, I need to control something. I need it to go my way, right? Okay. So then by the end of the week, okay, sorry about that interruption. I'm not sure exactly where I was. My son came home and I was like, okay, you guys have to go outside. So by the end of the week, we're then moving into you got the love. Like, so it's this energy of really being able to open, but at the same time, it's interesting because my friend was just talking about in her newsletter, her weekly newsletter, she was talking about Venus and how there's a shadow side to Venus, and the shadow side is Inanna, and Inanna and Venus are one of the same, right? They're the same coin. And so I think there's this, where are we maybe codependent? And like, where can we open ourselves to love? And this was such a big thing for me in my Venus year last year. Like, where am I actually pushing away love, even though I want to be loved? Where am I maybe codependent? And that's like such an icky one, because once you really start to see that, it's like, oh gosh, and the reason why I bring this up, because what we are still being asked to do is to claim our sovereignty, right? We are being asked to claim our sovereignty, take responsibility for our lives. And this doesn't mean that it's not nice to have someone to like co-regulate with, right? But when we become completely codependent, where we cannot like maybe regulate ourselves, be responsible for ourselves, right? We are too codependent on someone or something. This also is like boundaries. Where do we maybe need stronger boundaries around certain things? And I think this is going to be such a beautiful week because it feels like it could be very eye-opening for us, okay? Where our patterns are coming up, right? These coping mechanisms, where we might need to step back a little bit and allow ourselves to see maybe a bigger picture, divine timing, the tapestry of life coming together. Like, you are the weaver, but there are other people who are involved in this weaving, right? And I think, again, by the end of the week, there's really space for reflection because we're also being asked to think about it. Really come into awareness of these patterns, where we're codependent and where our boundaries need to be stronger. And I will say, like, after being married for, how long have I been married? I think it's going to be 16 years in October, but I've been with my husband for 19 years. You really see where you're codependent on one another, right? And where you kind of have to check yourself before you wreck yourself. And you can see, like, in your relationship where your codependency has maybe affected your partner. And this isn't just in relationships, right? This is like in any relationship. It doesn't just have to be husband and wife. And I want you to also remember, like, this is reminding us again through the lens of intentions. And this is really interesting because what I'm getting with this is, like, being really raw and honest with what are our intentions, or what are your intentions, because this is where it can get a little tricky, where you can maybe see small amounts of manipulation or big amounts. I mean, who's to say? You might be like, oh no, I'm actually fully on manipulating, or you might be down here where you're like, I can maybe see where I'm trying to angle this a certain way to maybe manipulate in the family of codependency, right? So this could be like a bit of a web, and I think this is why it's like, slow down, taking your time, really think about what's going on here, because it can get messy. If I'm being real, like, things can get messy, especially when they're so, like, woven so tightly. And I'm not saying that you're going to find all the answers. This is merely just saying, what are your intentions? Do you, and this again just came through, it's like, do you want to stay in your victimhood, or do you want to claim sovereignty? And even though I talk about this a lot in a container that I held with 20 women, where working with the dark goddesses, where you claim your sword. You're not just dragging your sword behind you anymore. You're literally like, I own this shit. But there's a whole process, right? Like, when you are starting to, like, wield your sword, there's a training. There's a whole process that you have to go through. You have to build strength to be able to wield your sword. This doesn't just happen overnight. And you're wielding your sword is your sovereignty. It is you. And so I think, again, by the end of the week, we're seeing, okay, where am I leaking this energy? Where am I, like, really, last week was about where am I absorbing what isn't mine, but this is almost like, where am I seeping onto other people because I don't want to claim myself, my responsibility, my sovereignty, right? Where do you need stronger boundaries? I feel like this could also maybe energetically be around toxic relationships, toxic love relationships, especially because it has to do with you got the love. So where do boundaries need to be stronger for you? And I have talked about this. Boundaries are not for other people to follow. Boundaries are for you to enforce, right? And I don't like that word, enforce, but for the lack of a better word right now, enforce is what I'm going to use. And it's basically for you to uphold. I don't like how I'm being treated. You can't demand somebody else to treat you a different way. You are the one who has to say, you know what, this isn't right for me, and I'm not gonna participate in this anymore. And you might be the one that has to walk away. And I think this is going to be really big this week. I think this is going to be really big, where we I also see it as, like, this week we might be like, I'm so busy that I don't know all these things. I'm not aware of all these things. How do I want to say this? I think we keep ourselves so busy so we don't look at these things. but this week is an awesome opportunity for us to be able to actually see the things that we just kind of keep sweeping under the rug and hope to get better. But I don't think the hope is going to be what changes any of this, right? It's us. We're the ones who have to change this. So this week is a big week. Perspective this week is great for really identifying and seeing these patterns. Like oh shit, I can see where I'm like blocking something for myself. I just shared on Substack how I realized that where I was like blocking my wealth. And you're going to have these small subtleties of like where to loosen your grip, looking through the lens of compassion and love and nourishment, nurturing, but also remember to move the body this week. I think this is going to be another week to move and you know what? It's not just another week. I think until we really get into the new paradigm and we're really calibrated, it's every week. It's going to be every day that we are being called to do this type of work, where we're really being called to support our bodies for this type of change. So it seems like, again, there's going to be big stuff for us to go through on an individual level, but also a collective level. I think you're going to have maybe some clarity around birthing creations, but where you might have to let go a little bit. I also think we might see that on the main stage where something is coming towards us and we're kind of gripping and we kind of just have to like maybe trust the timing. We might not have all the answers. And where are we codependent in our government? Where are we codependent? Again, like I feel like even weird bringing that up because I normally don't talk like that, but it's really, where are we codependent? Where do we need boundaries? Where do we need stronger? What does sovereignty really mean to you? You know, and where are we not taking responsibility for our lives, but projecting it onto a system that was never really for us in the first place? So this is going to be a big week for you to see, not only for that in your own life, but you know, how you expect it in, you know, in life in general, your government, your workplace, all of these things. So that was a lot. I think, again, this month is going to be a pretty big month. Like I said, if you would like to get on my newsletter list, you can go to my website. And that's pretty much the only place that I give like the monthly energetics. And I will be posting another podcast about the energies that I think that are coming in for at least the summer, which I think will be really great as well. So I wish you all a wonderful week. Let me know how you're feeling, what's coming up for you. Are you feeling any of this in your own personal life? Do you see maybe a pattern that's coming up that, you know, the light bulbs are connecting? Please remember that the community, the chat, is there for all of us to just be able to ramble off and vent and support one another. And I also have really exciting news. Pretty soon I will be launching the Rose Legacy Temple, which is a membership where you can, it's going to be growing, but the first temple will be the Dark Goddess Temple at a much lower rate than what it will be as it's, you know, as it's getting bigger and once it's finally completely built. But this is a really great place to do deep dives on your own time, in your own space, but also have the support me and the community. So I'm really excited for that, and that will be coming. So also, you can always work with me one-on-one if you want to dive a little bit deeper in some of the patterns that might be coming up this week as well. So I am here for you. I love you. I send you all the good vibes, and let me know what you're feeling, and I hope you have a great week.